Hi everyone, today I will be discussing Wiggins' article on the 7 keys to effective feedback. Before discussing the effective keys for feedback, it's important to know what is exactly feedback. So before reading this article and the lecture notes for this week, to me feedback has always been comments made after the fact. So this could be advice, this could be evaluation, this could be praise. That all seemed like feedback to me. But now after reading this article, feedback can include all of that, but it's also information on how someone is doing in their efforts to reach a goal. So Wiggins uses 2 examples. The first example he uses is a joke. So with a joke, your clear goal is to make people laugh. And you have that tangible feedback right away, whether people were laughing or not at your jokes. You know whether you reached that goal or not. And then there's another type of example he uses, which is a reader who comments on his short story. Just to read what that comment is the first few paragraphs kept my full attention. The scene painted was vivid and interesting, but then the dialogue became hard to follow. As a reader, I was confused about who was talking, and the sequence of actions was puzzling, so I became less engaged. Now, the difference between this example and the joke is this one was feedback by a second party. So this gave explicit feedback by other people. But if you notice, this feedback was not saying you did a good job or you did a bad job. It specifically explained what the reader experienced or the effect that Wiggins' writing had on this reader. They did not tell him what to do, just what the effect of that writing was. Now, formative assessment is a great way to give feedback. So formative assessment, as Wiggins says, consists of lots of feedback and opportunities to use that feedback, which enhances performance and achievement. So Wiggins also discusses the idea of teaching less and giving more feedback that creates a greater learning experience for all. So the 7 keys to effective feedback is goal-referenced, tangible and transparent, actionable, user-friendly, timely, ongoing, and consistent. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about each one. For goal-referenced, now feedback requires a person to have a goal. So it's very important, and we can discuss this as well, is that as a teacher, you are letting the students know what their goal should be so they know how to take that feedback and relate it to the goal. So the feedback should be goal-related information about the person's actions. So again, that is not giving advice. That is not giving praise. That's explaining, basically like that second example, it's just explaining the information of that person's actions related to the goal. So that information becomes feedback if it tells the person that they are on track or need to change. Now, feedback also has to be tangible and transparent. And we discussed this a little bit with that joke example. So tangible results are related to the goal. So for example, with the joke, you tell a joke and you know right away, just by your tangible feedback, whether people are laughing or not. You don't need a second party to tell you that. But Wiggins does explain how using videotapes to show someone their performance, sometimes that gives tangible feedback. For example, as a first-year teacher, and Wiggins also discussed this as well, sometimes teachers are too busy concentrating on what they're teaching and fail to notice whether students are listening or learning. So it's good for a first-year teacher, or any teacher for that matter, to record themselves once in a while so they can really see, were the students actually engaged with my teaching? Did the students have a full learning experience, or was I too interested on the teaching of it and not really giving students the opportunity to learn? And I think this is a great thing to do, especially as in your first years of teaching, to really see that tangible feedback to yourself. Feedback also needs to be actionable, which means there should be concrete, specific, and useful. It provides actionable information. So for example, well, these are non-examples. It's just saying good job, or you did this wrong, or B+. What you need to say is what specifically should be done next time to reach that goal. Now, also, feedback should be user-friendly. So avoid too much technical information. So an example Wiggins uses for this one is teaching a baseball swing to a 6-year-old. Now, as a coach, you may know a lot of the technical terms, but that won't do much talking in all that technical terms to the 6-year-old. Too much feedback can also be overwhelming. So what you should do is note one important thing that you noticed, and that should be worked on, and that will then create improvement. Another very big part of feedback is making sure that it's timely. So feedback needs to be given in a timely manner. An example I can think of is if I am doing a unit, I typically give smaller quizzes along the way. Now, it's important for me to give those quizzes back the very next day so students can see what they did wrong and where they need to improve on. If I waited and did not give those quizzes back and with feedback, then what would happen is they would continue to do those wrong mistakes and have those misconceptions. So when it comes to taking the next quiz or taking the test, they will still continue to make those mistakes and not have that full understanding. Another part of timely should also be ongoing. So you want to be able to give opportunities to use that feedback. So feedback should always be ongoing. An example Wiggins uses is his daughter trying to break a 5-minute mile. So as she's doing those laps, the coach is saying, you need to change your arms. You need to shave off 2 seconds. That is ongoing feedback so that she can reach her goal of a 5-minute mile. Another example he uses is Angry Birds. So with Angry Birds, if you fall off, it brings you right back to the beginning where you can restart and adjust. Formative assessment is another great way to have that ongoing feedback because you're continuously giving that feedback to a student about how they are doing on their goal. And then the 7th key factor is that it needs to be consistent. So all teachers need to look at student work together. They all need to be on the same page about what a high quality work is. Also, they should create rubrics and have exemplars that are all the same so that all students know exactly what they need to do in order to succeed. Wiggins also explains that we should have long-term goals. So the key to gear feedback is long-term goals, he says. And he also suggests maybe score students in fall and winter based on spring standards so that you can see that improvement from the fall to the spring of that standard. Wiggins also gives examples of advice instead of feedback. So for example, you need more examples in your report. You might want to use a lighter baseball hit. You should have included some essential questions in your unit plan. These are all examples of advice, not feedback, because you're giving advice but not explaining why they need to be doing that or how that relates to their goal. And then the last part is feedback versus evaluation and grades, which we discussed before. So for example, good work, this is a weak paper you got to see on your presentation. These are all examples of evaluation and grades, not feedback. What you can do, however, is say good work, you did X, Y, and Z correct, which made the performance a lot better. Or you're explaining why it's good work or why it's a weak paper. That is what feedback is. Thank you for listening.